You let yourself be deceived.
A few days ago, I published a video with a very grabby thumbnail. My title also read Civ 7 cancelled in bold red letters specifically designed to grab someone's attention. But whose attention? My mother would have looked at that thumbnail, yawned, and gone back to reading her book and drinking her Chardonnay. My girlfriend, who knows nothing about the Civilization franchise except that it's a video game and that I play it instead of pawing at her 24/7, and she is by far the biggest supporter of my channel, by the way, looked at the thumbnail and said, "Make the letters bigger so they catch the eye more." I used to think that hell hath no fury like a woman scorned until I discovered that hell hath no fury like a Civ 5 fan scorned. And then I found out that hell hath no fury like someone believing they've run into clickbait that they can't see beyond the alleged ruse.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
But a few folks, true fans of the channel, went in with a sense of what I'm all about and were treated to a very sincere and well thought out video. So let's talk about clickbait. Welcome to Civilization Stories, where we explore alternatives to history through the lens of the world's most addictive video game. Remember that tagline that I use regularly to describe my channel. I think I have stated that line in just about every video I have published. It is quite literally written in the description of my channel. I've never been, nor purported to be, breaking news. So whose attention was I trying to get with my thumbnail and title? What was I trying to say? Do fans of my channel honestly believe I was trying to bring them breaking news, something they didn't already know about Civ 7? Civ 7 is already upon us. It released months ago. So in what context does canceled even mean? Could they be scrapping future expansions? Are they shutting down the studio? So what's clickbait? I have a feeling that any viewers of a certain age, i.e. my age, who have been around longer than and yet have grown up with the internet, know what real clickbait is. I remember taglines for videos in the early days of seeing videos on the internet like, "Surfer enters shark-infested water, you won't believe what happens." And the thumbnail had a surfer that looked like they were face-to-face with a shark. Then you clicked on the video and all it was 7 minutes of a guy paddling on a surfboard, and then after 5 minutes or so, a shark's fin swam by. Then of course there's 2 or 3 minutes left and you're like, wow, there's a lot that can happen in 2 or 3 minutes, except nothing else happened. That was it. Folks who clicked, and I'll admit, back in like 1998, I was one of them. Basically watched the video and said, yeah, I can believe that happened. So basically the video didn't deliver on a promise. But which promise? The surfers enter shark-infested waters part? Or the you won't believe what happens part? It's the second part, not the first. They told you about you, and you fell for it. But they delivered on the first part. Now, I'm of the generation that believes they cried wolf too many times for me to believe it. The they know me and what I'll believe part. I question everything. If I see something grabby, like it maybe can't be true, I investigate. For example, something popped up in my Facebook feed the other day talking about Eric Abidal passing away. Now, Eric Abidal, for those who don't know, was a French professional footballer who did suffer from cancer and needed a liver transplant that cut his career short. At first I was like, oh, that's sad. But then I looked into it and he's fine. The piece of content came from a source I did not know, and there were no trusted sources reporting the same. That's clickbait. All it took for me to get over it was not to jump to conclusions and perform a minimum of extra research. When Critical Drinker a year ago said, "Thank you and goodbye to YouTube," did I really believe he had had enough and that this was the end? Some people apparently did. This is where it's important to know your creator. Listen, I'm not Critical Drinker, not even close. So clearly I have not built up nearly as much goodwill. But as someone who clicks on just about every Critical Drinker video that comes out, I knew I'd be entertained no matter what. So what exactly was the promise proffered by my thumbnail and title? Was it news that somehow Civ 7 was thrown to the trash heap? Ask yourself if that's a real possibility. In reality, my promise was that there is something to know here. Look deeper. I admit as much in my opening phrase. Thank you for clicking on the provocative headline. But look deeper. Video descriptions exist. In the description for this video, I write, "A game that I loved playing once upon a time was Sports Interactive's Football Manager. Fans of the franchise recently received an explanation as to why the 2025 version of the game was canceled. In an interview with the company's director, it got me thinking as to why Civ 7 was pushed out to the public in the state that it was in and why it has had to endure a particularly negative reception. In this interview, the studio director, Miles Jacobson, explains what they were trying to do, how it failed, and why releasing the game would have damaged their reputation. This video is meant to be an in-depth look into what it means to manage the expectations of fans of a major video game franchise and explore the parallels between Football Manager's decision not to release its game versus Firaxis's decision to release Civ 7. This was the promise of my video. Everything is there in the thumbnail, the title, and the description. Civ 7, that's what the channel is all about. Cancellation, a key concept heavily discussed during the video. And cancellation as it relates to Civ 7. Now, if you saw the title, realized that Civ 7 was chugging along and that my video was about the cancellation of a different game, so you clicked away, well then you missed a hell of a video. And what's even more interesting is that the video is all about messaging and how it gets done between creators and their fan bases. So let me break down some of the things you may have missed. I investigate why the cancellation of Football Manager and how the studio director's handling of the situation is meaningful in 2025 and has lessons for studio directors of other major game franchises. I go into great depth to explore the idea of expectation, remember that word, when it comes to popular video games, and how it is the job of game developers and the studios to manage those expectations. I talk about what it means and how difficult it is to look at something you were responsible for creating and deem it unworthy. I talk about the repression of cognitive dissonance in the modern age and the mental gymnastics we play to never have to admit that we were ever wrong about anything. I go into depth about transparency and modern messaging. You even get a great clip from The Office to drive the point home. I talk about what the expectations for a new Civilization game ought to be and how, in similar fashion to FM25, the game that did get canceled, it did fall short. I show support for the developers of Civ 7 who were recently laid off by the studio and remind everyone that better days lay ahead. There's even a really poignant and emotional conclusion to the video that should satisfy even someone with the hardest heart. It's a really good video, but I'll admit that I'm a bit biased. I love all of my videos. They're like my children. So it hurts a bit when a few folks describe the messaging in or at the front of them as inexcusable. That's my kid you're talking about. Now, folks with real human children are probably like, bruh, nah, I get it. I'm just trying to illustrate my point. I know it's not the same. A few folks commented that they would unsubscribe, could no longer support the channel, and would never return, even suggesting that a single transgression of this sort was more damaging in the long term than it would ever serve in the short term. That video is all about messaging. I know that I rag on Civ 7 because I feel it's a disappointment and not all that it could be. But that's someone's kid, man. Sure, I dump on it and think they got a whole lot wrong, but I am nothing if not supportive of all the joy they have brought over the years, and I don't begrudge them one or even a few missteps. Sure, I'm unsatisfied, but I don't easily succumb to a single disappointment and then write someone or something off. This immediate and lasting erosion of trust, for some of my age, seems new and generational. I hope we as a society grow out of it. And I hope you, as someone who has clicked on this video and perhaps dismissed the other as clickbait, won't write me off completely either. In fact, as one piece of advice to a younger generation, always be prepared to forgive. That video is all about messaging. Everyone deserves more than a second chance. Don't get me wrong, it's important to recognize when a relationship is toxic and get out. But always remain level-headed and grounded. Pump the brakes. Take a beat and return with a clear head and an open mind. I'm going to leave a link to the previous video that you may have dismissed as clickbait in the description. Remember, it's all about messaging in 2025. And I hope you like this video, even if it's focused more on me, the idea of messaging in 2025, and not as much on Civ and all that jazz. But there is a lesson even for me here, and I hope you've made it this far. I mentioned just moments ago about how in my previous video, I discussed the repression of cognitive dissonance in the modern age and the mental gymnastics we play to never have to admit that we were ever wrong about anything. It's time for me to be a bit pre-2025. Got to act my age here because it's all about messaging. And as much as I think it's important to know your content creator, it's equally important for a content creator to know their audience. I think I may have taken the thumbnail and title too far. I admit that I thought it was a great idea at the time. Honestly, I still like it. But that doesn't mean it was the right decision, and I might have upset some folks who would have otherwise been long-serving fans and advocates for the channel. For that, I'm sorry. I don't want to too easily turn my back on those who were with me one day and quick to walk away. Sure, the credo of the modern age, since Taylor Swift shouted it across the airwaves, has been haters gonna hate, hate, hate. But I do think there is a line to tread that both satisfies fans and scratches that itch in those that want to investigate and know more. Messaging can be tricky. It's not always easy to be forthright with others, let alone with ourselves. All I can say is I want to be part of the solution and not the problem. I'm trying. Thanks for watching, and remember to keep playing and making your own story, your own amazing path through history, and I hope I'll see you next time.